The American family has always been the backbone of the nation. Hardworking people strive to provide for their loved ones, dreaming of a brighter future. But in recent years, a shadow has fallen over this aspiration. The policies of the Trump administration have created a perfect storm of economic challenges, leaving families struggling to stay afloat. From soaring food prices to exorbitant healthcare costs, the average American family is feeling the squeeze. Essential expenses have skyrocketed, putting immense pressure on household budgets. The financial strain is palpable, with many families forced to make difficult choices just to make ends meet. The promise of a better life seems increasingly elusive as the cost of living continues to outpace wage growth. Families are left wondering how they will afford basic necessities, let alone save for their children's education or their own retirement. The economic anxiety is real, and it's taking a toll on families across the nation. One of the most basic human needs is access to affordable, nutritious food. Yet, for many American families, this fundamental right is becoming increasingly difficult to secure. Under the Trump administration, food prices have experienced a steady and alarming climb, making it harder for families to put meals on the table. The price of everyday staples has soared, leaving families reeling from sticker shock at the grocery store. Eggs, a breakfast staple, have seen a staggering increase, with prices up nearly 20%. A morning cup of coffee, a small comfort for many, is now a more expensive luxury, with prices rising by over 3%. Even the ingredients for a simple family meal have become more expensive. Bacon, a beloved breakfast and sandwich staple, is up almost 2%. Flour, a fundamental ingredient in countless recipes, has seen a price hike of over 2%. These increases may seem small individually, but they add up quickly, straining already tight grocery budgets. The cumulative effect of these price hikes is significant. Families are now forced to spend hundreds of dollars more per year on groceries, putting a strain on their ability to afford other essentials. The joy of sharing a meal with loved ones is overshadowed by the anxiety of rising food costs. The daily commute, once a mundane part of life, has become a source of financial stress for many American families. Under the Trump administration's energy policies, the price of gasoline has skyrocketed, turning a routine fill-up into a major expense. The national average price of gasoline has surged by over 40%, a staggering increase that has left families reeling. For those who rely on their vehicles to get to work, school, or doctor's appointments, the cost of transportation has become a significant burden. But the pain at the pump is just the tip of the iceberg. Home energy costs have also skyrocketed, making it more expensive to heat, cool, and power their homes. Electricity bills have surged by almost 30%, while natural gas bills have risen by over 30%. These increases have a direct impact on families' ability to afford basic comforts and necessities within their own homes. The cumulative effect of these soaring energy costs is staggering. Families are now paying thousands of dollars more per year for energy, leaving less money available for other essential expenses. The burden is particularly heavy on low and middle-income families who are disproportionately affected by these rising costs. Section 4. The American Dream of Homeownership, increasingly out of reach. The American dream, often associated with owning a home, is slipping further out of reach for many families. Under the Trump administration, the cost of housing has continued to rise, making it increasingly difficult for families to achieve this milestone. Regulatory burdens and other factors have contributed to a significant increase in the cost of new home construction. These costs are often passed on to home buyers, making it more expensive to enter the housing market. For young families looking to purchase their first home, the dream seems increasingly out of reach. But even for those who already own their homes, the financial pressure is mounting. Property taxes, often tied to home values, continue to rise, adding to the overall cost of homeownership. Families are finding it harder to keep up with these rising expenses, and some are even facing the possibility of losing their homes. The dream of homeownership should be attainable for all Americans, but the current economic climate is making it increasingly difficult. Families are being priced out of the market, and the gap between those who can afford a home and those who cannot continues to widen. Section 5. Healthcare, a heavy burden to bear. Access to quality healthcare is essential for the well-being of families. Yet, in the United States, healthcare costs have spiraled out of control, leaving families struggling to afford even basic medical care. The Trump administration's policies have done little to alleviate this burden, leaving families vulnerable to financial ruin in the face of illness or injury. The United States spends more on healthcare per capita than any other developed nation, yet millions of Americans still lack access to affordable, comprehensive coverage. The high cost of healthcare is a major source of financial stress for families, often forcing them to make difficult choices between their health and their financial well-being. Families are often faced with exorbitant medical bills, even for routine procedures. The cost of prescription drugs, often a necessity for managing chronic conditions, can be astronomical. Deductibles, co-payments, and other out-of-pocket expenses add to the financial burden, leaving families struggling to keep up. The fear of unexpected medical expenses weighs heavily on families, creating a constant sense of anxiety and uncertainty. The current healthcare system is failing American families, leaving them vulnerable and financially strained. Section 6. Navigating the labyrinth of tariffs and taxes. Section 7. Tips for financial survival.